Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. I got a special guest here with you today. My man 10 Toes Down from 10 Toes Down TV, Mr. Accountability. He caught me. He had some questions about Larry Hoover because I explained to him that Larry Hoover is not free yet. Yes, he was pardoned from the feds, but he's not free yet. I'm going to break that down. I got 10 Toes Down, got some questions. I know y'all got some questions for him. Put it in the comments so when we follow up on this, you'll be ready. Until then, subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel at Juanita Mecca Audio. All right? She tell about what it was like growing up on the street with her father in jail doing 26 years in federal prison from the wrong choices that he made. So none of you young people wind up like me and my daughter. All right? All right. So this is what it is. We back. We got the breaking news. We're going to find out about Larry Hoover being pardoned by President Trump. Let's keep it moving.
We begin with breaking news. He was once one of the most notorious gangsters in Chicago. Tonight, President Trump is commuting the federal sentence of Gangster Disciples co-founder Larry Hoover.
Suzanne Lemonnier is in our newsroom. Suzanne, this move doesn't mean he'll be getting out of prison.
Erica Joe, legal experts see this as a potential hollow victory. Now, while Hoover may be released from federal prison, he still has a 200-year state sentence.
Now, let me explain that to you, why he said that, because this is what 10 Toes Down called me up here for. Now, he served his time in the feds per the pardon, so he's released, but he still have 200 years running consecutive to the life sentence in the feds. Even if they ran it together with the life sentence in the feds, what they'll look at is he only got 52 years in. He got locked up in 73. He got 20 years. He's not eligible for parole basically until whatever. And the last time he'd been to parole was in 1992. Now, being that they released him from the feds, here we go. He's into the state, and now he have to deal with the parole board or the appeals court, or, Clemency, whatever the governor do. You know how the governor sign off like President Trump signed off, and, that's what it is. So being that our honorable president signed off on Larry Hoover, hopefully the governor will give him his justice as well and let him go home to his family, because I really want y'all to see how young this man was, right? Let's get to this, right? This is how young he was. Look at the pictures behind me. This is how young he was, and that's how old he is now. And that picture behind me is 10 years old. His whole life, look at those pictures. We don't want this to be you young people out there. But like I said, he have to serve the time that he has right now in the state. 200 years, he's just starting. Let me take a ride. Then I'm gonna bring 10 Toes up. I just want to give 10 this. Pay attention to this. He in the studio. He chilling right now. Right? Now, the way they did this back then is they always held something back just in case you beat something. So in other words, when they said it's a hollow victory, it's equivalent to, they said, all right, well, if he beat the life sentence, we still got this 200 years over here, so we're going to run it separate, meaning, they call that consecutive, meaning they're going to run it bow-legged is something else they call it. That means you have to do the life sentence and then begin on the 220 years. So now he done served the life sentence over here, got pardoned by the Honorable President Donald Trump, and then now he has to go to the state to deal with this 200 years because they didn't expect a president to pardon him. But they expected was that, I don't know if y'all ready for this, was that he actually win his appeal. So they like, if he ever win his appeal, we want to make sure we can still keep him buried. And that's what the 200 years was for. So him being pardoned is equivalent to him beating his appeal. See how simple I break this down? Now, I'm going to bring 10 Toes Down up. You ready, family? Because I want to see how he look at this and how he know how the state handle this as well. right? And then we're gonna watch the rest of the news together because we got to get 10 in here. All right, what's up, family? Tell me who you are, where you at, and let them know why you qualified. Tell them about your prison time for my people that don't know who you are.
All right, salute, man. Salute to the chat. Salute to everybody out there, man. And most of all, the Mecca audio, man. You know, that was my before we were saying my big homie and all that. That was the OG in my neighborhood who I looked up to and I try to emulate. And I think about it. Matter of fact, I think you the reason I wound up going to jail. You,
Oh,
but nah. So yeah, like he said, you don't want kids to follow the footsteps of those that came before us. And that was one of the things I was trying to follow in his footsteps. I wanted to be a kingpin. I wanted to be out there in those streets and had the Benz, the MPVs and the BMWs and all that shit and the 300Zs and shit. But yeah, I'm 10 Toes Down TV. That's 10, the number 10. I came on the YouTube with accountability. After serving 21 years in prison, I began to learn about, within serving my 21 years in prison, I learned about myself and my character, why I was able to commit crime. And I began to read, study. I had a poor education. I didn't go to school to learn what I learned about myself. And I believe that the problem with us as, this is why I'm qualified to hold people accountable. Not only because I served 21 years, but because I have the knowledge and the understanding of why we able to commit crime, why we able to come home out of prison and still glorify prison. That's because while in prison, no one applied themselves and dealt with their criminal behaviors and their criminal thinking. What they did deal with was they went to school, they got college education, they got shops, they got different little trades that they got under their belt, but no one dealt with their criminal thinking and criminal behavior, how they was able to go out, shoot somebody, stab somebody, sell drugs, stand on the corner, sell drugs to a pregnant lady. And that's because since young, we suffered from instant gratifications. Us as criminals, once we get arrested, we become the victim. We forget about the victim. The friends in the street start talking about free so-and-so, free my man this, free my man that, not even thinking about the victims and the family and all the hurt that we created in our community. So it starts with having that instant gratification, poor impulse control, you be desensitized. Now, desensitized is a strong word. And I feel that a lot of these guys that's on this YouTube that I hold accountable is that they are desensitized. They no longer see people as people. They see it as a check. They see them as victims. They see them as a vic. And they don't no longer see that this is a father, a son, a person that's just trying to live their life. So they went from being criminals on the street, killing, robbing, shooting, stealing, to coming to the internet. And now they doing the same thing, but they doing it in the verbal form. Like Malcolm X said, you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled, you've been there. And that's what they doing. They getting money from misguiding these youth today. So I feel I'm qualified. I'm able to teach these youth today, in which I do. I go to schools, I go to rallies, I do everything. I got a nonprofit organization. I got people that stand behind me. I got brothers like Unique. I got brothers all in the street that we go around and we outside. And when I say outside, I'm not on no young boy-ish looking for beef, smoking on nobody. No, I'm outside trying to make a difference. Now, yes, on my channel, you will find, if you do come over there and subscribe, you will find me going crazy sometimes. That's all in the name of love. I'm also about doing the comedic side of it. I try to shed light of it and laugh about it, because the things that we've been through in prison, you're going to cry about it. So I try to make you laugh about it, opposed to crying at the horror and the pain that we go through being in prison. Now, my reason for being up here today is that, like Unique said, I'm qualified and able to question or answer any questions in reference to the poor choices and the behaviors that we make, and the things that we experience and that we make our victims, and we have no empathy and we have no sympathy, and we never reach back to the families that we affected in society. So in order to become a pillar to your community and make a difference in this world, you have to have some type of sympathy and some type of empathy, meaning you have to either experience what these people are going through and what they're feeling, or you have to have seen it before and have an understanding of what they're going through, and you're able to sympathize with them. Now, I got a question for Unique. My question for Unique is this. after he got pardoned by President Trump, and he's in the state now, does it run retroactive? Does he get the same pardon over there in the state, or do we have to continue with this fight and sit like the pardon never happened? Like, does he just sit over there, or do he get to have the same thing run in the same way over there, or can Trump pardon him again on the state?
Good question. Good question. Good question. Check it, right? Right now, all he had was his federal sentence, what they called abolished, like slavery was abolished. So that no longer exists, but he's still a black man in slavery is how abolishment went. This is not to bring race in it, but just so you understand. Now, it's the same thing as now he's done with the feds. So that's been abolished. And now he's a ward of the state. So now that he's in the state, they could have ran it what they call bow-legged, like I said at the beginning of the intro, or they could have ran it the same terminology in the same meaning is concurrent. Now, I mean consecutive. If they run it concurrent, that means it runs together. That means every day that he does on that life sentence counts towards that 200 years. But it's up to the judge's discretion based on your criminal history and your conduct if they're going to intertwine it together or if they're going to, it's up to them if they're going to intertwine it together or if they're going to run it bow-legged, meaning you serve the life, get President Trump to pardon you, and now you begin your 200 years. So could you imagine my viewers, subscribers, and my good brother 10 Toes Down, you serving life sentence, you're serving 52 years in prison, and then you're 70-something years old, and then now you have to serve 200 years. But I don't think they ran it consecutive but then again, they may have. And that's what I'm going to look into to give you a proper answer, because he went to parole last in 1992, but he was in the state then. He didn't get over to the feds until 1997. So he had the parole hearing because that started. And then when he caught the federal charge, this is another thing, right, Ten? The Fed supersedes the state. If you catch a state charge and then a federal charge, the feds have the power to grab you and say, we want our time first. So being that he had 200 years in the state, the feds said, nah, get into me. I want to punish him first. I want to break him first. Because the Fed supersedes the state. That's why the federal government make the laws and then the state abides by them. So that's what's going on right now. The feds grabbed him and said, all right, he got 200 years. He'll die over there in the state and we'll never get nothing out of him. We want our chance to break him. So the feds said, give him to me. And the state didn't have a say in it. That's like you see in the movies when, something happened up in the woods. There might be a homicide up in the woods. And then now somebody come in, the local town, the sheriff is looking at it. That's the state. And then the feds come in with their suit, like what's that joint, like the X-Files, and say federal government, boom, that means everything ceased. And that's what they did. They bust their shots and went and got Larry Hoover from the state that he was serving the 200 years for the federal crimes that they felt that he committed while he was serving time in the state. See how deep this is? And that's when the judge either said, I'm going to run it concurrent or I'm going to run it separate. Normally when they run it separate is because they want to make sure that you never get out. So if you beat your appeal, then you have to begin 200 years at whatever year or whatever age you are when you beat your appeal. Now, 10, did I answer that well enough, big bro?
Yeah.
All right, let me get back to playing the news joint real quick then, right? So we're going to dive back in here and see what they got to say. All right.
For which a parole board has already denied early release. In 1993, Hoover spoke to former CBS News Chicago reporter John Davis. And at that time, Hoover was 42 years old and had already served 20 years in prison.
I've done my time. I paid my debt to society.
That was Larry Hoover, more than 3 decades ago. At that time, the leader of the Gangster Disciples and convicted murderer told our John Davis he had a lot of time to think about ways to stop the gang violence on the streets of Chicago.
One teenager don't like the other teenager because the way he wears his hat, because his ideology is different from his. A disciple don't like a vice lord. We all black people. It's no different.
At that time, Hoover, also known as King Larry, admitted being part of a fragile gang truce in the city and organizing a protest over plans to close healthcare clinics in African-American neighborhoods. Ron Safer, the lead prosecutor in Hoover.
Pause. See, that's the problem that I don't want y'all to get into. What they're saying is that he tried to stop the state from doing their job, so the feds came in and said, no, we're not having it. That's why we could come in and grab you to do our time first, even though you was already serving state time. That's crazy, ain't it though, 10? Think about that. You're serving state time. You got 20 years. The feds grab you, say, well, I ain't never got to worry about it. I'm going to die over here in the state. I got 20 years. But then the feds said, nah, I'm the big kahuna. And then they grab him and they bring him over here. That's why I say go to school, listen to what Ten is saying. He got all that psychological training because he's been through the same crap that I've been through. So we had to figure out the crap to make a solid rock. And that's why we up here together. So make sure y'all check him out at 10 Toes Down TV. This my brother. This sponsored by Cashbox. You already know what it is. Subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel. But you follow what I'm saying though, Ten? Huh?
I got you.
Hoover's federal trial reacts to news Hoover's life sentence has been commuted by President Trump.
I was disappointed. I do not think that this is an appropriate end to the Larry Hoover story, at least the federal part of it.
See, did you hear what he said? So y'all understand. Let's ride. Check this out, right, Ten. I'm gonna pop up, right? He said that you don't understand that this is not an appropriate ending, not on the federal level. In other words, you know, an appropriate ending for us is for him to die in prison. That's what he's saying. I'm just translating, you know, and just trying to enlighten the people so you know it's not worth it to go down that road, because you don't want people to have these feelings about you that they're entitled to have from what they said he was accused of, because no one wants that type of behavior in the community. So you have to understand where he's coming from as well, not just that where we're coming from. They say, oh, you want Larry Hoover to die in prison? No, he has a family out there, and he don't want under any circumstances for them to run across an old Larry Hoover. So he protects his generations, meaning his great grandkids, by making sure that the country is shaped to go in a positive direction. You understand what I'm saying? 10 Toes Down, so that it's where it's at. So appropriate ending for him would be for him to die in prison. That's the appropriate ending. And that's what he's basically saying. And I just explained to you both sides so you understand why he feels that way. And I'm telling you, he's entitled to feel that way. You know, he spent all that time prosecuting them and trying to keep people that committed those type of crimes off the street. And then now this man gets pardoned. But look at the empathetic side from Larry Hoover's supporters and family members. This man has changed his life. He's helped other youth while he's been in there. He's served 53 years and changed his mind state. So he deserves a chance the same as anyone else. And the Honorable Donald Trump felt that, and round of applause to the Honorable Donald Trump. All right, relax. Y'all might not like Donald Trump or whatever, but you know, that's you have your opinion. He freed me from prison while I was serving 26 and a half years in on a life with no chance of parole. So that's honorable to me, because that affected me. I might not agree with a lot of his views and you know, agendas, and he don't agree with a lot of mine, but he still had faith in me to release me from the belly of the beast. So, I mean, you know, we here and our brothers are coming home and we trying to make a difference, a positive difference. And Donald Trump is spearheading that because he's bringing real, you know, like Akbar Praise said on the show yesterday, credible messengers out. I'm a credible messenger with King Tone and Grow Up, Grow Out. You know, I mean, where we talk to the youth up there in Washington Heights and we try and prevent certain things from happening before they happen. And, you know, we take the kids to play basketball to get them out the street so they pick up a basketball instead of a gun, like basketball up, guns down. You know what time it is. And we hit the court like the old days. We even gonna start the boxing joint. You saw me boxing with Big G, and I'm still nice. I'm talking to him last night. I said, yo, I caught all that crap he said. You know, I just do it. Hey, 10, I'm gonna bring you up now. I want you to tell him what 52 is. Because I hit Gene with the 52 with the hand movement and knocked all that and kicked it to the side in the video. Tell him what 52 is, son.
Yo, Unique, you ain't do no goddamn 52. Maybe you thought you was doing 52. You was doing more like 52 years old. Motherfucker, that wasn't no 52. That was 52 years old.
Don't curse. Don't use the F word, but go on. Nah, come on, son.
Oh, okay, okay.
Let me go play that joint right now. It's my joint, man. I can play it.
Listen, 52 is when you come in here, you blocking, you doing all of these different blocks. You weren't doing none of that blocking. Gene was jabbing, letting it go, and he could have knocked you out if he really wanted to, but he was holding back. Gene was holding back if he wanted to, because he tall, you lightweight. He was letting that jab go. And he kept putting it out there. He was like, You ain't even thrown out 152 block. You ain't do 1, 2, 3. You didn't do nothing. You was just throwing your hands up.
You ain't gonna let me talk. All right, let me listen, man. You 100. You 100. I wasn't doing 52. I was using that as a joke, but the point I was making is I blocked that trash he was throwing like it was.
You ain't blocking. You ain't blocking because he didn't put no power behind it. That's all love. He ain't put no power. If he would have put power, he'd have knocked your arms off.
We wasn't fighting them. We was just slap boxing. You know, that's just homies.
Yeah, that's some old school slap boxing.
Yeah, that's all it was. Hold on, let me find
that was all love right there.
Oh man, it's over here. I'm gonna find this joint too, man. Now, yeah, that was definitely all love. Hold up, switch account. All right, because you got me ready to find this joint now because I don't like your attitude, man. You know, my man told me last night, oh, Gene could have knocked you out. He was holding back, man. He's a big teddy bear.
I just said the same thing. I ain't even hear it. I ain't even hear him say. I said the same thing.
I'm gonna find it. You know, I keep it, G. We ain't gonna play that.
And you, I bet you one thing you didn't do. One thing you didn't do. You ain't throw a jab back.
Nah, man, because I'm playing with the big goof.
You wouldn't even been able to reach him. You wouldn't been able to reach him. You were too far.
Let me ask you this, right? If I would have reached them, what the hell would these do against a giant like that? You know, so I was just defending myself. Oh, man, hold up. Let's play this. We're going to play this right now, my bro. Hold up.
Did we see you on the joint? That's all I want to know.
Why you asking me?
Joint. What are you doing down there?
But I'm just saying, when you start asking a grown man why he doing what he wants.
I'll get this. Maybe this one.
Yeah, I ain't see the video going.
Why did we see you on the joint? That's all I want to know.
Why you asking me?
Joint. What are you doing down there?
But I'm just saying, when you start asking a grown man why he doing what he want to do.
Why is you down there?
Because I want to be down there.
For what?
Listen, I got to see for myself.
You got to see for yourself.
I got to see for myself, bro. I ain't no run. I ain't want to run.
I caught that, son. See, catch it.
I'll see for yourself. I got to see for myself, bro. I ain't no run. I ain't want to run.
Come on, son. See, you didn't see that. You ain't see that.
Listen, you was almost in the grass. You better get on out of here, man.
Oh, man. So you say my hand movement wasn't nice, son? I ain't catch that?
You did a juvenile move. You backed that thing up. You was going back. You did a juvenile move. You did a hot boy move. You backed that thing up.
How would I explain to my 90-year-old mama that I had to knock the man out that brought all that good food?
Well, hold on, wasn't he over there to bring mama some food?
Yeah. So how was I gonna knock him out? I had to spare him, son.
Listen, man. That's nothing but talk. That ain't nothing but talk.
Don't do that, son. Yo, see, I thought you was my man, son. You always keep it 100. One thing I can say about 10 Toes Down, he will never lie. But right now, you ain't telling the truth.
I'm telling the truth, bro. You know I don't be lying about nothing, man. I don't fear nothing.
Hold on. Just look at it one more time, then I'm done with it. You know what I mean? Just look at the hand play.
One more time? You ain't doing nothing.
Hand play.
I ain't no runner. I ain't want to run.
Come on, son, right there. I don't need to play no more. Even though I'm all in action, like you said, backing up, like, look. But see my leg, the way my leg is right now. Let me tell you what the move was, right? I was getting ready to sweep that left leg and kick that left leg of his right on the kneecap, but that's my man. I know he old and his knees bad. And I always told him,
Yo, hold on, he old. You ain't too far from him.
Yo, but my knees ain't bad. His knees is bad. His back is bad.
And that's why he got to get it over quick. He got to get it over quick.
And I did right there. Look at my leg, the way that left leg is up. I was getting ready to sweep that and hit his left knee. And I said, nah, I don't even want to play like that and hurt him because he's going to say, have I hit him? And when I start smacking the crap out of him when he hit the ground, he's going to say that I cheated because I kicked him hard in his knee. So I spared him.
Listen, according to copy stat numbers, you lost every round.
Oh, man. I'm gonna take let my man finish with Larry Hoover. Get back to this, man. You just too much, son. Hey, yo, I don't know if I'm gonna bring you back up here, man. I don't know if I'm gonna bring you back up here, man. You don't go with the program, you know.
That's the thing. We ain't supposed to go with the program. We go against the grain.
That's what I'm talking about. But that's what I'm saying. That's what this man is gonna finish telling you about Larry Hoover, that he wasn't going with the program. He was going against the grain. Of the way society was supposed to be moving. You see how everything lines up when you get two intelligent people like Unique Mecca Audio and 10 Toes Down. Let's keep it moving.
Safer says Hoover was perhaps the most notorious criminal the state of Illinois has ever known.
He was convicted of running a continuing criminal enterprise that had approximately 30,000 members across 28 states, selling over $100 million worth of drugs in the state of Illinois alone each year. And he ran that entire operation.
I'm not going to let him get away with that. I can't let him get away with that. I can't. Let me explain that, Rob. Let me explain that. What they did was they tried to present to the courts that anybody that was associated with the gang that he was supposed to be leadership with was, paying dues to him. So they was working for him. So if you got, one of his gang members all the way in New York City, whatever drugs he's selling, even though this gang member don't even know Larry Hoover, but he's under the banner of Larry Hoover, the way the federal government laws is written to protect us in society is that the kingpin don't have to know all of its players on the board. Do you understand that? You understand the words that are coming out my mouth? Hold up, I'll deal with that later. But that's where that's at, so you fully understand that they're saying that anybody that was in his gang that was selling drugs in the United States, in any state, that he was responsible for, even though he didn't give them the drugs, didn't know what they was doing, but they saying that the drugs that got there through someone that was affiliated with him, and he's at the top of the king dome, which is why they came up with this statute to get those that don't get their hands dirty, but just use their mind. You understand that? Now let me hear what my man Ten got to say about that. What do you think about that, big bro? In your words.
So I understand where you came from, and I can understand their side, right? Because I went to the parole board 6 times. I made it on the 6th board. Now, every time I went to the parole board, right, they asked me one question: why you have a gun? That was their main question. Why you had a gun? Every time I went, I used every excuse in the world why I had a gun, because I had it for protection. I had it for somebody was after me. I had it for this and that, right? So they say you had it for protection, yeah, because the neighborhood I grew up in and all this. Man, he said, so your mother had a gun. And now my mother had a gun. Your brother, no, your sister, no. They banged me in the head, right? They wording, I don't know exactly how it went, but it said, your release right now is incompatible with society. And to let you go would deprecate the seriousness of the crime. And that you don't, just basically saying that I don't understand why I was able to carry a gun, commit a crime, and if they let me go, that I just may do it again. And I can bet you when Larry Hoover went to the parole board back in 1993, that they used that in them words around about to continue to hold him. And that's what they're trying to do right now. Now, when I finally go back in the board and I understood why I had a gun and the reasons and all that, I went there, they said, well, why you had a gun? Let's start it off with that again. I went there, I said I had a gun because I wanted to kill somebody. They was like, what? That's right. That's why I had a gun. I had a gun because I wanted to kill somebody. I had a gun because I had a wish a nigga would attitude. I had a gun because
I guarantee you they gave you parole at that point.
They gave me parole. That's what I'm telling you. The last one, that's what I said. Then they gave me parole.
Do you know why they gave you parole?
Yeah, they gave me parole is because I was able to understand now why I had a gun. And more I was saying, the ugliness of taking a life, I began to get into how I dehumanized people, how I was desensitized, and how I was causing havoc in my community. And to take a life. To be able to take a person's life, you got to understand why, how, and what made you do that. How was you able to do that? Normal people in society, and the main thing is you wasn't born this way. You wasn't raised this way. You could blame your neighborhood. You could blame it on everything. But you wasn't raised like this. This ain't how God created you. So how are you able to do that? And I began to break down how I was desensitized, I dehumanized people, and I had no care and concern for authority or human life. If somebody died, I was so bad at it that I didn't care if I died. So by me going into the parole board and now finally being able to say, you know what, I had a gun because I wanted to kill somebody. I had a gun because I didn't care about the police or human life. I had a gun, and when I went out in the streets with that gun, I was pushing and hoping somebody stepped on my foot, try me, bump me, said something slick, and I'm going to pull this gun out and I'm going to shoot it from across the street, or I'm going to shoot it up close. And the thing about it is this, right? When it comes to guns and you got one, you a coward, because that gun gave me superpower. Without it, I had power, but with the gun, I had superpowers, and nothing could stop me until I ran out of bullets. So now I'm up in that parole board. I'm saying all this. They let me go right after that. Once I finished, I walked out of there. Just the way they looked at me and the way they was questioning me afterwards, I told everybody in the jail, I'm going home. They like, hold on, bro. You know you can't think like that. You can't talk like that. That'll make you go crazy. You done went to 5 parole boards now. You know they hit you. If you think about going home and they hit you this time and you might, I said, no, bro, I'm out of there. I know I'm out of there. That light went off in my head. So when it comes to Larry Hoover, not saying exactly, because I don't understand how the parole works out there in Chicago. He went back in 1993. He ain't go no more. What, they be hitting dudes out there with 20 years?
In life, they was waiting on him to die in prison. So why send him all the way back and waste the judicial funds to even deal with giving him a parole hearing that he still have to serve life to? And the 2 sentences is ran the way they ran to make sure he never see the streets again. But the Honorable Donald Trump freed him from his rehabilitation. What happened? I was raising my hand because I want to answer your question. And the reason why I told you ahead of time and cut you off, which I don't like to do because I learned that over the years, you know, you're one of them that told me. But when you made the statement saying that you told them that you carried the gun, that's because before that you were doing something that's in clinical term called mollifying. Mollifying is when you make an excuse for why you do a wrong when you know it's wrong. You understand? So when you said, I did this because everybody had a gun, my neighborhood, you know, that's mollifying. Then they hit you with, did your mother have a gun? You know what I mean? Nah, but she didn't have a gun, but you know, I made sure that I had one for the house. You're still mollifying. You're justifying why you had it when you're saying right there that even your mama that raised you didn't have a gun. So you can't justify why you felt you needed a gun when your mama survived in your neighborhood without a gun. So why do you need one? But we know now from riding that the young people of today, they go out there and they create havoc amongst each other. The craziest thing is I looked at an overall map, 10, right, of Chicago, and they got the projects right here and they got the suburbs right here, and the suburbs is moving in harmony and the chaos is in the projects, and it's our people in the projects. So it's our people bringing the chaos to our people that's making that environment toxic. And then they try and mollify why they are living like that amongst their people, the same as you went into the parole board mollifying all your reasons why you had a gun, instead of just saying, I got a gun because he pissed me off and I wanted to blow his mother effing face off. As soon as you did that, they said he understands that what he did was wrong. Now we have different programs to put him in once we release him on parole that will help him to adjust back into society to get his life right. And that's why I'm riding like I'm riding, so the young people understand that me and 10 Toes Down is here, because we're trying to tell you we don't want you to have to go through this parole redefining of the mind to have empathy, as 10 Toes Down just said. Empathy. Empathy means to care about the next person and not just yourself. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is caring about how they feel. And we lose empathy, and we had to when we could go steal somebody's car, rob somebody's house, snatch an old lady's pocketbook that's somebody's grandmother. Are we there or what, Shaft? Talk to me, dog.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. You hit it right on the button. And that's what it is, man. And that's how and like I said, it started with being desensitized. I have to become desensitized within my being. I have to be able to dehumanize you, to be able to rob you, take your car, hurt you. And so what's going on now in these streets is everybody has ops. They not human beings. Like, I have a problem with that person. They won't say a person. They won't make them a person, because now we're human. So we got to keep it on the ugly side. We got to keep it on, that's my op. I got a problem with him. But if you ask them why, even know. They won't even know why. There's plenty incidents, right? This is what I do with the kids, right? I separate the room. I make 10 kids sit on this side, 10 on this side. I say, y'all Bloods on the left side, y'all Crips on the right side. I get one person. Who gonna be the leader? Want to stand? I'll be the leader. You be the leader of the Crips. You the leader of the Bloods. I go to the leader. I whisper in his ear, right? And then I go to the other leader. I whisper in his ear. Now I go to the Bloods. I say, y'all ready? Yeah. And everybody stand up. Now let's ride on them. Each one of y'all pick a person who you're going.
Yeah, his joint is messing up, but you understand where we at. Let me finish playing it until he figured to go out and come back in.
With ruthless efficiency from prison, where he was serving a state sentence for double murder.
Safer also told us about Hoover being recorded, saying teenagers needed to sell drugs for his criminal organization. The recording was made a year after the Gangster Disciple leader was interviewed on CBS Chicago.
There was another tape where Larry Hoover said, you have to share your drugs with these children. And I'm talking about 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, so that they can sell it and they can have something. And
you see, imagine that type of evidence or that type of assumption being put to a jury to make a determination if a man should spend 200 years of his life in prison. If anybody did that, you already know you wouldn't want them a part of your society. Not saying that Larry did it. That's what they charged him with. That's what he went to trial for. I don't know what evidence they had. I can't speak on it. I'm not speaking on it, but he's showing you why he feels that the feds feel like it was a terrible ending for Larry Hoover, for him to end where he died on the street with his family instead of in the cold prison cell. I can't get no more realer than that, man. I'm just letting you know. He has a right to feel that way. Because how would you feel if you sitting there as a juror and they telling you that a man gave a 12-year-old drugs to sell and said to do this and do that? How would you feel towards that? 10 toes down his back. So I'm going to catch him up to where we was at. I want you, let me bring him in. I'm going to rewind that. Yo, Ted, check. You ready?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, look, run this back. This is what you missed right here, because this is deep. This is where the prosecutor Larry Hoover is saying why he feels that it was a terrible ending for the feds for him to be released, to be a free man, because they wanted him to die in prison. And this is his reasons. And you be honest. I want you didn't hear my answer. I want you to give your answer if you was in a jury and you heard evidence of this and seen evidence of this. Not saying that they was or they wasn't, because I don't know what happened in the trial, but we just trying to give a hypothetical here. All right.
Share your drugs with these children. And I'm talking about 12 years old, they have to share your drug.
Teenagers needed to sell drugs for his criminal organization. The recording was made a year after the Gangster disciple leader was,
where Larry Hoover said, you have to share your drugs
right
with these children. And I'm talking about 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, so that they can sell it and they can have something. And he said, make them know that with you, they are somebody. And without you, they are nobody.
After the commutation.
All right, so what did you think of that right there, that statement? If you was in the jury and you heard that, be honest, talk to the people how you would respond. We're not talking about from a criminal point of view. We're talking about from a societal point of view.
That's a fact, right? Now, look, when I was a kid, when I was 11, my dad got murdered, right? My father's murdered. So how you think I felt? I wanted that person who killed my father either dead, in jail, tortured. I felt all kind of stuff about him, right? We never found out who did it. We never found out what happened, what was the cause. All we know is that my dad dead. My father had a closed casket. Well, I remember going to the funeral. They just had a picture up there. I couldn't even see inside the casket. At that time, my family, my brothers, my sisters, my mother, even myself, as a juror, I would want to see you rot in prison. I would want to see you rot in prison just knowing like all the victims that you created. They said that he had over 30,000 people within his organization. And you guilty by not only association, but you guilty by being the head, and they're going to put everything on you as being the head of this organization. So everything that every single person do, you being blamed for it. Now, the news is what controls the thinking of the masses, right? So if this is what you see and this is what you hear, and if the police would have came to me and said, this is your killer right here, if they would have told me Larry Hoover was the reason behind the killing for somebody that's in the gang, I would have been like, F Larry Hoover too, put him in jail forever. That's the way I would have felt. Now, when it comes to society, there's nothing wrong with society and feeling the way that they feel. I don't be people feel when they say keep them in jail, keep them locked up, because I can understand it. Because if somebody killed my kid today, or somebody, the way it's going to make me feel. So that's why we speak about this empathy and sympathy, and you got to think before you act, and you got to get
Yo, go out and come back in, because you're talking too deep. Go out and come.
What people say, I don't care what people do, what people say. You always have a choice. You always have a choice, and you can't blame it on that. I didn't have a choice. It was society. It was my neighborhood. And that's when I'm going to start pointing out all the people that made it out your neighborhood.
You can't mollify it. Like I've said, mollify it. That's when you try and justify a wrong with a right answer when you know it's wrong.
Your actions, you justifying your actions.
You know, but
Yep.
you know, that's where we at, man. I appreciate you coming, Ted. We've been on here 45 minutes. You know, thank you. And thank everybody for tuning in. Subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel, Juanita Mecca Audio. Everything is real. Let's keep it moving. All right.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio. Mecca what? Mecca Audio, Mecca what? Mecca Audio, Mecca what? Mecca Audio, Mecca what? Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top demon so shiny. I let shorty go, she was wine. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a raw in Uptown. Baby horn Uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend an ear. He started in Uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours. So we can get back to the cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.